I've reviewed a lot of bad horror this year. Buffet Infinity found a new way to do it. Welcome to Scary World, where I walk you through the best, the worst, and the downright disturbing. I'm Arturo Padilla.
Hi.
Let's get into it. A family restaurant in a small town goes to war with a new all-you-can-eat buffet that won't stop expanding. And the whole thing is told through cheap TV commercials. As the buffet spreads, people start going missing.
We're talking pizza, burgers, and more. Opening soon.
The first category is production.
Told you I'd make a movie someday. Huh?
Buffet Infinity was directed by Simon Glassman, and this is his feature film debut. It premiered at Fantasia last year, and it walked off with Best Editing at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. Now Shudder's got it as an exclusive. So there's a paper trail here that says somebody, somewhere, saw something in this. Unfortunately, I didn't. It's incredibly difficult to call this a movie. There is no real filmmaking in the traditional sense in this thing. And I want to be clear about what I mean by that, because the built-in defense is that it's supposed to look cheap, it's supposed to look like this. It's all shot like local access ads from the late 80s and the early 90s. Blown out lighting, ugly video noise, framing that's off on purpose. Fine, that's the bit, but a bit like that only works if there's a purposeful focus underneath it. Somebody has to be in total command of the fake for the fake to land. You have to be a good enough filmmaker to be bad on purpose, and every frame of this told me nobody in that chair was. What it actually feels like is a film student project on steroids. Somebody had 10 years of sketch ideas sitting in a drawer, got a VHS filter and a budget, and nobody in the room ever said no to anything. Artistic decisions were absolutely made here. You can see the intent all over it. But almost none of them reflect as sound ones on the screen. And that's what killed it for me. Intent isn't execution. Does this look like what the filmmaker intended? Probably. Does this work as a movie? No. And for that, Buffet Infinity got a 0 out of 2 for production. I really did not like how this thing was executed from top to bottom. There are flaws everywhere. There are flaws even in the premise, but we'll get to that in the next category. But in terms of filmmaking, there is really nothing to tout here except point and shoot at something and just make it work. The next category is story.
The second act needs work.
The script and the story were written by Glassman, Allison and Elisia Snyder. You can throw the 3-act structure straight in the garbage because it does not exist here. And I don't mean it's experimental, I mean there is nothing you could point at and call a structure. The story, and I'm using that word real generously, gets told through a slew of late 80s and early 90s style commercials and news reports. That's the entire delivery system of this feature film. And here's the problem with that. They want you to piece this thing together yourself out of these bursts, which sound clever right up until you're sitting in it. You quickly forget what happened in the previous burst of nonsense because every burst resets you. There's nothing to hold on to, no thread, no momentum, no reason for your brain to carry anything forward from minute to minute. So you're not just assembling a puzzle, you're getting hit with static over and hoping some of it sticks. And to top it off, the premise doesn't even hold up on its own terms. The commercials act like things are happening in real time, like the events are unfolding live inside the ad, instead of being a filmed commercial. And that's not me nitpicking, that's the foundation. If the format is the whole movie, the format has to make sense, and this one doesn't. It also takes over an hour for things to get interesting. Over an hour. And by the time it does, you're so worn down by the nonsense that you don't even care anymore. I'm not sure why anybody looked at this and thought it was a concept that needed a feature, let alone an hour and a half of one. This is the 5-minute sketch stretched past the breaking point. It was pretty unbearable to watch. And for that, Buffet Infinity gets another 0 out of 2. This was not good. And like I said, if the premise is being told through commercials, you lose that premise the minute commercials start acting like live action sketch comedy. Things change while the commercial is going on, and it's very confusing because the premise itself is a story being told through different commercials. And from what I know about commercials, they don't happen live. Commercials are pre-shot and aired on television. This is not what we get here. And that alone is very off-putting and very confusing. The next category is ensemble.
She's an actress. She's acting.
The The cast was fine. There are no real characters to speak of, not people anyway, just faces in ads, and that's less of a knock on the actors than it is a structural thing. The format doesn't leave room for a character to exist. Nobody gets an actual arc here. What you get is recurring actors showing up across the commercials. And if you're paying close attention, you start clocking the same faces coming back around. To their credit, the actors understood the assignment they were handed and they actually nailed it. And for that, Buffet Infinity gets a 1 out of 2 for Ensemble. I feel bad for this cast. Fortunately for them, they know how to do their jobs, and they did it well enough that they look like they belonged in these commercials. So for that, it gets a point. The next category is horror.
Is it scary?
There's very little horror in this thing. The commercials and the news reports do get weird as the runtime goes on. They try to be creepy. There's clearly a plan in place to have these ads slowly rot as things go wrong in the town, and on paper, that's a decent engine for dread. But in practice, though, it's a poor attempt. And here's why it doesn't land. Dread is meant to be a violation of the norm, but this movie never gives you normal. It's been nonsense since minute 1, so when the ads start going sideways, it's business as usual. It's just more noise on top of the noise you've been sitting in for over an hour. The movie does manage to deliver some semblance of horror in the last 5 to 10 minutes. Something finally happens, but I was so tuned out by that point that I just needed this all to end. That's the honest truth. The movie finally showed up, but I had already left. Maybe the horror itself was trying to get through this slop. And for that, Buffet Infinity gets another 0 out of 2. There's not much to say here. There is a bit of practical work in the movie. It's like halfway through. It is surprising. It is kind of cool, but they should have done this from the jump. I don't understand why they waited so long to show us a little bit of cool practical work. And then when we get to the ending, can't even call it a third act. When we get to the climax, it's, I don't know what they wanted to do there, but they tried to do some cosmic horror stuff and it really didn't hit for me. The last category is legacy.
All right, now make up your mind.
Buffet Infinity was unbearable to watch. I've been sitting here trying to figure out how to sum this up, and I keep landing in the same spot. What the hell was this thing? It's a movie that touts a premise it can't even hold up. I literally wanted to turn the TV off 10 minutes into this thing, and I'm surprised I didn't. But I do this for you guys out there, so I sat through this whole thing so you know what it is before you even think about hitting play. Another Shudder bomb in the books, folks. They are on a roll this year. Wherever they dug this thing up needs to be reburied along with this streaming platform, because whoever they made responsible for bringing in this movie has absolutely no clue what good horror looks like. And that's what's actually going to stick with me here. Not the movie, but this pattern of absolute garbage from Shudder. And for that, Buffet Infinity gets a 0 out of 2 for legacy. There's not much else to say here. This movie was not good. Do not waste your time with this thing.
Task, can you tell me what time it is?
Now it's time to add it all up. For production, Buffet Infinity got a 0. For story, it got another 0. For ensemble, it got a 1. For horror, it got a 0. And for legacy, it got another 0, bringing the total up to a 1 out of 10. Yikes. This is not a movie. It's 93 minutes of someone's YouTube folder with a distributor attached. The cast did their job. Everybody else failed. Don't bother watching this thing. I'm Arturo Padilla, and remember, it's a scary world out there, but I am here to walk you through it. See you next time.
Hello, I just wanted to say goodbye.